Hello friends, this is lecturer Piyush Malpure, subject communication skills. Today we are going to learn formal and informal communication. So, based on style and purpose, there are two main categories of communication and based they both bear their own characteristics. Communication types based on style and purpose are the very first type is one formal communication. So friends, let us see formal communication. Formal, this word formal is made up of the word form. Form means to follow certain rules and norms. So let us see what is formal communication. In formal communication, certain rules, conventions, and principles are followed while communicating the message. Formal communication occurs in formal and official style, usually professional settings, corporate meetings, conferences undergo in formal communication pattern. In formal communication, use of slang and foul language is avoided and correct pronunciation is required. So in this type of communication, the words like hey buddy, come on yaar, such words are not used. Only the words like ladies and gentlemen, excuse me sir, such formal words are used. Authority lines are needed to be followed in formal communication. Now, there are types of formal communication. This type of formal communication occurs in offices, schools, colleges, institutes, etc. So, the very first type of formal communication is upward communication. The communication goes from downward to upward. So let us see what is upward communication. When communication flows from the lower level to the upper level of a hierarchy, this is known as upward communication. Information to be dispersed is no longer required to follow a specific chain of command in order to reach its intended party. So, this communication occurs in an office from lower level, like at the lowest level, who comes? Yes, peon. If peon wants to convey his problem to the manager, then he cannot go to the manager and knock his door and tell his problems. So, the lowest officer or the lowest rank holder tells his problem to his superior, to his senior, and then that senior goes to the team leader. And if team leader is not able to solve his problems, then that team leader goes to the manager. So, in this type of communication, the hierarchy is followed from lower level to upper level. Now, there are some benefits or advantages, or we can say merits of vertical communication or upward communication. It is useful in conveying the suggestions, complaints, and needs of subordinates to superiors. It gives feedback of the decisions taken by the superiors. Third, it is a source of motivation for an employer. Fourth, it helps in developing cordial relationship. Cordial means it's like very intimate relationship. Okay. Very, we can say, loving relationship between the workers and management. It is a source of motivation for an employer. It helps the top management in knowing the behavior, opinions, and feelings of the workers. So, these were all the merits, or we can say advantages of upward communication. Now, we will see the demerits or disadvantages of upward communication. So, the very first disadvantage is the wrong communication or the wrong information may be communicated upwards. Another, second, workers avoid communicating with the superiors. Third, due to the busy schedule, the superiors may not pay attention to the problems of the workers. Or, and the last is employees may bypass the appropriate authority or channel to reach higher authority. So in the next video, we will see downward communication. Thank you. Hello friends, this is Piyush Malpure, lecturer in English, and now we are learning the subject communication skills, and in that subject we have covered upward communication. Now we are going to see downward communication. Downward communication is exactly opposite to the upward communication. So let us see what is downward communication. Downward communication occurs when information and message flows down through an organization's formal chain of command or hierarchical structure. In other words, organizational hierarchy and move down towards the bottom levels. Responses to downward communications move up along the same path. For example, downward communication in the bank. So, downward communication means when the upper authority communicates with the lower authority, and so on. For example, branch manager communicates with the financial manager, and financial manager then communicates with the cashier. So, in this way, the information goes down in the downward communication. So, there are some advantages of downward communication. Let us see what are the advantages of downward communication. Downward communication provides certain advantages to the organization. The very first advantage is organizational discipline. Downward communication follows the organization's hierarchy, meaning that organizational discipline and member compliance is much easier to maintain. Second is efficiency. Downward communication offers efficiencies because instructions and information come from the sources in power that are able to coordinate activities from the top of the organization. Employees receive feedback from the superiors who manage them. The next is third advantage is effective communication of goals. So, upper management can easily communicate goals and assign responsibilities regarding achieving these goals. And the fourth is ease of delegation. Delegation means distribution of work. So, delegation is much easier if the delegation comes directly from the vertical communication structure representing the chain of command. and there are certain disadvantages. So downward communication is not without disadvantages. These disadvantages are as follows. First, distortion. Ever played the grapevine game? Downward communication can become distorted as it proceeds through multiple levels of the organization. Second is slow feedback. It takes time for messages to go down in the organization and then up to the organization and then back down again. So, this means that feedback can be slow, resulting in problems, especially in a dynamic environment. Next, third disadvantage is interpretative problem. So, downward communication presents interpretation problems because of the distortion effect and the slow feedback of for message clarification. Next is lowers morale. Given the time communication takes and the problem with distorted messages, downward communications can have a negative impact on organizational morale. Morale means support. And the last disadvantage is not motivating. Given slow feedback and the dependence on formal channels of communication, this method of communication doesn't really help with motivation. So these were the disadvantages of downward communication. Now we will see horizontal communication. So what is the meaning of horizontal? Horizontal means slanting. It is the formal or informal exchange of ideas between different individuals, departments at the same level. So, in horizontal communication, people communicate with each other who are at the same level in the organization. Merits of horizontal communication. So, there are some merits. Merits means advantages. So, merits of organizational or horizontal communication. First is it increases friendly atmosphere in the organization. Second, it is fast and flexible. Third, there is no scope for rumors or gossips. Fourth, it motivates team spirit among peers. Fifth, instant decision can be taken, saving time. Sixth, it helps in taking quick decisions. And the last one is the feedback is quick. Now, there are some demerits of horizontal communication. Demerits means disadvantages. So, there are some disadvantages of horizontal communication. First is it is hampered by professional jealousy. Jealousy means hating of each other. So, there is professional jealousy. Second, the too much horizontal communication affects vertical communication. Three, if there is no proper supervision, the employees may neglect their work. Fourth one is conflicts and disagreements among the workers may hamper the growth of the organization. So these were the disadvantages of horizontal communication. And now the last type is diagonal communication. A diagonal communication in an organization is the process whereby the flow of information is between people who work in different departments and are at different levels in the organization. A good example of diagonal communication is an instance where a human resource manager is sending out information to an accounts officer in the accounts department. Some experts in this field also define diagonal communication as the process of sharing information between different structural levels within an organization or establishment. There are some advantages of horizontal communication, sorry, diagonal communication. In diagonal communication, one can communicate with the person who is not at his level or who is not in his department, but he can communicate with them also. This type is known as diagonal communication. So there are some advantages of diagonal communication. It is a most direct method of communication. So this is the most direct method. Next, it is the most selective method of communication. 3. It is one of the fastest routes of communication. 4. In critical situations, it would seem to be the most essential and logical type of communication. And there are some disadvantages of diagonal communication. It can destroy lines of authority and formal chains of command, so it may be possible. Second, it can leave immediate superiors informed, sorry, uninformed of what is their subordinates are doing. Next, third is it can lead to conflicting orders and hence to further confusion. And the last one is it is usually verbal and this is untraceable if things go wrong. So these were the disadvantages of diagonal communication.